Hello, students. Welcome to Pramati Hillview Academy digital class. Dear students, today I'm going to take up another beautiful chapter from your supplementary reading Moments. The name of the chapter is The Beggar. The Beggar is the story of the transformation of a beggar into a good person. The behavior of a woman made him leave alcohol and lead a very good life. Kind sir, have pity. Turn your attention to a poor, hungry man. For 3 days, I have had nothing to eat. I haven't 5 kopecks for lodging. I swear it before God. For 8 years, I was a village school teacher, and then I lost my place through intrigues. I fell a victim to calumny. It is a year now since I have had anything to do. Dear students, in this chapter, a man was begging. He said that he had not eaten anything for the last 3 days. He did not even have 5 kopecks. Kopecks means money to pay for a room to spend the night at. He swore by God that he spoke the truth. He had been a school teacher in a village for 8 years, but lost the job due to conspiracy of his colleagues. For the last 1 year, he was without work. The advocate Sergei looked at the ragged, fawn-colored overcoat of the suppliant. Dear students, suppliant means a person making a humble plea to someone in power or authority. At his dull, drunken eyes, at the red spot on either cheek, and it seemed to him as if he had seen this man somewhere before. An advocate named Sergei looked at the light brown colored coat of the beggar. The beggar had dull, drunken eyes. There were red spots on both his cheeks. Sergei felt that he had seen the man before. I have now had an offer of a position in the province of Kaluga. The mendicant went on. Dear students, mendicant means beggar. But I haven't the money to get there. Help me kindly. I'm ashamed to ask, but I'm obliged to by circumstances. Obliged to means compelled, forced. The beggar continued that he had got an offer of a job in the state of Kaluga in Russia. He did not have enough money to travel to the place. He wanted help, though he felt ashamed asking for it, but his circumstances forced him to do so. Sergei's eyes fell on the man's overshoes, one of which was high and the other low, and he suddenly remembered something. Look here, it seems to me I met you the day before yesterday in Savodya Street, he said. But you told me then that you were a student who had been expelled and not a village school teacher. Do you remember? Sergei saw the man's shoes. Both of them had varying heel sizes. He remembered something. He said that the day before the previous day, he had seen the same beggar at Sadvoya Street. Then the beggar had said that he was a student who had been removed from the institution and not that he was a school teacher. He asked the beggar if he remembered it. No, that can't be so, mumbled the beggar, taken aback. I'm a village school teacher, and if you like, I can show you my papers. The beggar was shocked and spoke softly that that wasn't possible. He reasserted that he was a school teacher and could show his documents as proof. Have you done with lying? You called yourself a student and even told me what you had been expelled for. Don't you remember? Sergei said that he had lied enough. He added that the beggar had told him that he was a student and had even told the reason for getting expelled from his institution. Sergei flushed and turned from the ragged creature with an expression of disgust. Dear students, disgust means a feeling of revulsion or strong disapproval aroused by something unpleasant or offensive. Sergei was full of anger and turned away from the beggar. This is dishonesty. My dear sir, he cried angrily. This is swindling. Dear students, swindling means cheating a person of money. I shall send the police for you, damn you. He screamed that the beggar was dishonest. He was a cheat, and Sergei would hand him over to the police. Sir, he said, laying his hand on his sword, the fact is, I was lying. I am neither a student nor a school teacher. All that was fiction. Dear students, fiction means falsehood. Formerly, I sang in a Russian choir and was sent away for drunkenness. But what else can I do? I can't get along without lying. No one will give me anything when I tell the truth. What can I do? The beggar confessed that he was lying. He was neither a teacher nor a student. He had been a singer in a Russian group and was removed due to his drinking problem. He lied because people would not help him if he tell them the truth. What can you do? You ask what you can do? Cried Sergei, coming close to him. Work. That's what you can do. You must work. Sergei screamed at him and said that he could work instead of lying. Work. Yes, I know that myself, but where can I find work? The beggar said that he knew he should work, but there was no work for him. How would you like to chop wood for me? Sergei asked if he would chop wood for him. I wouldn't refuse to do that, but in these days, even skilled woodcutters find themselves sitting without bread. The beggar wanted to chop wood, but said that even skilled woodcutters were out of work, so who would employ him for it? Will you come and chop wood for me? Yes, sir, I will. Sergei offered him work. The beggar replied that he would chop wood for him. Very well, we'll soon find out. Sergei hastened along, rubbing his hands. He called his cook out of the kitchen. Hastened walked hurriedly. Here, Olga, he said, take this gentleman into the woodshed and let him chop wood. Sergei said that his willingness to work would be judged soon. He walked off, rubbing his hands, and called the cook from the kitchen. He asked Olga to take the man to the woodshed and let him chop wood. The scarecrow of a beggar shrugged his shoulders as if in perplexity and went irresolutely after the cook. It was obvious from his gait that he had not consented to go and chop wood because he was hungry and wanted work, but simply from pride and shame and because he had been trapped by his own words. It was obvious, too, that his strength had been undermined by vodka and that he was unhealthy and did not feel the slightest inclination for toil. Dear students, perplexity means state of being puzzled. Irresolutely means hesitantly or undecidedly. Gait means walk. Inclination means interest. Toil means hard work. The beggar resembled a scarecrow. His reluctance to go to shed was signified by his act of shrugging his shoulders. He followed the cook hesitantly. He was hesitant because he was hungry, and although he wanted to work, he did not feel energetic enough to do it. As he had promised Sergei, he had to go to work. He did not feel strong enough. because he was under the influence of the alcohol and was not fit to do hard work. Sergei hurried into the dining room. From its windows, one could see the woodshed and everything that went on in the yard. Standing at the window, Sergei saw the cook and the beggar come out into the yard by the back door and make their way across the dirty snow to the shed. Volga glared wrathfully at her companion, showed him aside with her elbow, unlocked the shed, and angrily banged the door. Dear students, wrathfully means with hatred. Showed him aside means pushed him aside. Sergei went into the dining room to look outside the window. He could see the woodshed and the yard. He saw the cook and the beggar in the yard. They walked to the shed. The cook, Olga, stared at the beggar angrily, pushed him with her elbow, and shut the door. Next, he saw the pseudo teacher seat himself on a log and become lost in thought with his red cheeks resting on his fist. The woman flung down an axe at his feet, spat angrily, and judging from the expression of her lips, began to scold him. The beggar irresolutely pulled a billet of wood towards him, set it up between his feet, and tapped it feebly with the axe. The billet wavered and fell down. The beggar again pulled it to him, blew on his freezing hands, and tapped it with his axe cautiously, as if afraid of hitting his overshoe or of cutting off his finger. The stick of wood again fell to the ground. Dear students, billet. Here it means a thick piece of wood. Feebly means weakly. Then he saw the beggar, who had lied that he had been a teacher. Sitting on the log of wood, he remembers. He sat with his cheeks resting on his fists. Olga threw the axe towards him and scolded him. The beggar pulled the piece of wood towards him, placed it between his feet, and hit it weakly with the axe. The wood shook and fell. He pulled it up again, tried to warm up his hands by blowing into them, and again tapped the wood with the axe. He was careful not to hit his shoes or cut his finger. The wood fell once again. Sergei's anger had vanished, and he now began to feel a little sorry and ashamed of himself for having set a spoiled, drunken, perhaps sick man to work at menial labor in the cold. Menial labor means an unskilled, inferior job. Sergei wasn't angry at the beggar any longer. He felt sorry and ashamed of himself to put the poor man at hard work in such cold weather, despite the fact that he wasn't fit enough to do it. Good, give him half a ruble, said Sergei. If he wants, he can come back and cut wood on the first day of each month. We can always find work for him. After an hour, Olga went to Sergei and told him that all the pieces of wood had been chopped. Sergei was glad that the beggar had done the work. He asked Olga to pay him half a ruble. He added that she could tell him to come on the first day of every month to cut the wood. They could give him some work. On the first of the month, the waif made his appearance and again earned half a ruble, although he could barely stand on his legs. From that day on, he often appeared in the yard, and every time work was found for him. Now he would shovel snow and put the woodshed in order. Now beat the dust out of rugs and mattresses. Every time he received from 20 to 40 kopecks, and once even a pair of old trousers were sent out to him. Dear students, waif means a homeless person. Shovel means remove snow with the shovel, a tool resembling a spade with a broad blade and typically upturned sides. The beggar turned up on the first of the month and got half a ruble, although he was heavily drunk and could not even stand on his feet. He went there for work often. He would do various jobs like shoveling the snow, set the wood in the shed, beat the rugs to remove the dust, and he earned 20 to 40 kopecks for it. Once Sergei gave him a pair of trousers too. When Sergei moved into another house, he hired him to help in the packing and hauling of the furniture. This time the wife was sober, gloomy, and silent. He hardly touched the furniture and walked behind the wagons, hanging his head, not even making a pretense of appearing busy. He only shivered in the cold and became embarrassed when the courtiers jeered at him for his idleness, his feebleness, and his tattered fancy overcoat. After the moving was over, Sergei sent for him. Hauling means transporting, pretense means to show something which actually doesn't exist. Jeered at him means made fun of him. Sergei shifted to another house and hired the beggar to help in moving the articles like furniture. Though the man was not under the influence of alcohol, he was sad and remained quiet. He hardly took part in moving the furniture. He simply walked behind the vans with his head hanging low and did not even pretend to be busy. He shivered due to the cold weather and seemed embarrassed when the workers made fun of him for being idle, weak, and laughed at his torn overcoat. When the work was completed, Sergei called the baker. Well, I'm happy that my words have taken effect, he said, handing him a ruble. Here is for your pains. I see you are sober and have no objection to work. What's your name? Sergei said that he was happy to see the change in the beggar due to his scoldings. He gave him a ruble for his labor and asked his name as he had left drinking and was willing to work. Lushkov. The beggar replied that his name was Lushkov. Well, Lushkov, I can now offer you some other cleaner employment. Can you write? I can. Sergei wanted to offer him better work and asked if he could write. Lushkov replied that yes, he could write too. Then take this letter to a friend of mine tomorrow and you will be given some copying to do. Work hard, don't drink, and remember what I have said to you. Goodbye. Sergei handed him a letter to be delivered to a friend of his. Sergei's friend would give copying work to Lushkov. He instructed him to work hard. Then they parted. Pleased at having put a man on the right path, Sergei tapped Lushkov kindly on the shoulder and even gave him his hand at parting. Lushkov took the letter and from that day forth came no more to the yard for work. Sergei was happy that he had reformed a man. He tapped Lushkov on his shoulder and shook hands with him. Lushkov went away with the letter and never returned. 2 years went by. Then one evening, as Sergei was standing at the ticket window of a theatre, paying for his seat, he noticed a little man beside him with a coat collar of curly fur and a worn sealskin cap. This little individual timidly asked the ticket seller for a seat in the gallery and paid for it in copper coins. After 2 years, one evening Sergei was standing at the ticket window of a theatre. He was buying a ticket. He saw Lushkov standing next to him. He was well dressed, wore a coat, and the collar was made of fur, and wore a cap made of seal skin. He was shy, as he asked for a ticket of the gallery seat, and paid for it in coins made of copper. Lushkov, is that you? Cried Sergei, recognizing in the little man his former wood chopper. How are you? What are you doing? How is everything with you? Sergei recognized Lushkov and met him. He asked how he was, what he was doing, and how everything was going. All right, I'm a notary now, and I'm paid 35 rubles a month. Dear students, notary means a person authorized to perform certain legal formalities, especially to draw up or certify contracts, deeds, and other documents for use in other jurisdictions. Lushkov replied that he was fine and was working as a notary. He got paid 35 rubles a month. Thank heaven! That's fine! I'm delighted for your sake. I'm very, very glad, Lushkov. You see, you are my godson in a sense. I gave you a push along the right path, you know. Do you remember what a roasting I gave you? Huh? I nearly had you sinking into the ground at my feet that day. Thank you, old man, for not forgetting my words. Dear students, godson means a boy or a man whom one promises to bring up. Roasting means here, scolding. Sergei was glad and thanked God for reforming the beggar. He said that he considered Lushkov to be his godson because it was due to his scolding that he was a changed man. That day the beggar had been at his feet asking for mercy. He was glad that Lushkov did not forget his words. Thank you, too, said Lushkov. If I had not come to you, then I might still have been calling myself a teacher or a student to this day. Yes, by flying to your protection, I dragged myself out of a pit. I'm very glad indeed. Lushkov thanked him and said that if he had not met Sergei that day, he would still be lying and begging. He came out of the pit with the help of Sergei and was glad for his help. Thank you for your kind words and deeds. I'm very grateful to you and to your cook. God bless that good and noble woman. You spoke finely then, and I shall be indebted to you to my dying day. But strictly speaking, it was your cook, Olga, who saved me. He thanked Sergei for his kindness. He was grateful to the cook. He was a noble woman. Although Sergei had been kind to him, it was Olga who saved him and reformed him. How is that? He asked Sergei how he felt about the truth. When I used to come to your house to chop wood, she used to begin, "Oh, you sot, you! Oh, you miserable creature! There's nothing for you but ruin." And then she would sit down opposite me and grow sad, look into my face, and weep. "Oh, you unlucky man, there is no pleasure for you in this world, and there will be none in the world to come. You drunkard, you will burn in hell. Oh, you unhappy one." And so she would carry on, you know, in that strain. I can't tell you how much misery she suffered, how many tears she shed for my sake. But the chief thing was, she used to chop the wood for me. Do you know, sir, that I did not chop one single stick of wood for you? Lushkov continued that when he would visit the place to chop wood, Volga would scold him. She would feel sad for him and wept. She felt very sad for him and would chop all the wood for him. She did it all. Why this saved me, why I changed, why I stopped drinking at the sight of her, I cannot explain. I only know that, owing to her words and noble deeds, a change took place in my heart. She set me right, and I shall never forget it. However, it is time to go now. There goes the bell. Lushkov bowed and departed to the gallery. Lushkov remembers Volga with gratitude, and he would say, though he can't explain how she changed him and how she saved him, but he would always be indebted to her for the noble act until his death. He would say her behavior changed him. Just then the bell rang. Lushkov bowed to Sergei and left for the gallery of the theatre. Dear students, that ends the lesson. Dear students, before I end up the class, I would like to tell this. The beggar story is based on the theme of transformation of a depraved alcoholic through kindness, compassion, and selflessness. Olga's words and noble deeds changed Lushkov's life and also his heart, and he gave up drinking and started living in a right and a very successful manner. Dear students, I'm going to come up with another chapter and another video. Until then, bye students, take care.